Hello, it's Zoe, and welcome back to the Mischief Movement podcast, your weekly inspo for people looking for more hell yeah in their life. Consider this your one-way ticket out of midlife mediocrity towards fun and positive impact via playful disruption. Wouldn't you love to wake up and feel like a total badass? How about breaking some rules, throwing two fingers up to society and doing more of the things you love? I'm talking full-on freedom, adventure, and those meaningful connections I know you've been craving. Stop waiting for your amazing life to happen and go get it. I'll be picking the brains of some true game changers and mischief makers so I can share what I find and hopefully inspire you to shake things up, do more of what makes you feel alive, and boldly rebel against the ordinary. I've no idea what I'm doing, to be honest, but I've got a mission and I'm here to start a movement. It's going to be quite the adventure. Care to join me? Okay, here goes. Have you ever found yourself working in an industry only to feel then like you didn't really fit in? Or are you a multi-passionate who feels the need to apologise for having multiple interests? Let me ask you another question. Have you ever dreamt of riding a motorcycle but worried that you're not good enough, or it's too hard, or it's too late to learn? And what on earth do all these things have in common with each other anyway? If you're curious about any of the above, you're going to love this conversation with Clare today. Having spent many years working in the fashion industry, but feeling like a misfit to the 9-to-5 system and various toxic work cultures, by 2020, Clare was ready to walk away. Lockdown and a nudge from her husband provided the catalyst, and she found the courage to take that leap of faith by becoming her own boss and helping startups and small brands launch and scale as a fashion consultant and mentor. Not only is she now breaking stereotypes and tearing up the rules on what it means to work in fashion, but she's also built her own community, developed ways to give back, and unite two of her passions, which on paper would perhaps seem like an unlikely fit. As a multi-passionate myself, this is the part I found most interesting and exciting. So, without further ado, here's Clare. Well, Clare, I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's so nice to see you finally. Who are you? What do you do? Tell everybody.
So my name is Clare Alexander and I run a fashion consultancy. So after many years in the fashion industry, working for small brands and suppliers, I now help startups and small brands start and scale their business. So whether at the start of their journey and they need help, they know what to do and how to do it, or whether they're scaling up from small production to larger production, I can help them with that. And I've got quite a broad spectrum now from supplier to brand. So it's quite a 360 view. So can use that knowledge to help people in a nutshell.
Yeah. There's quite a lot to it, like you said. It's not as easy as just saying, I want to start a brand, is it?
No.
There's so much behind it. What was your journey like to get to this point of becoming a consultant?
Oh God. So I think I've never really felt like I fitted into the 9-to-5, but I felt that was our only option of work. Because when you leave school, you're never told you could go and do your own thing. It's like, what do you want to do for a job? And then you're sort of given a list of options, and running your own business is never on that list, is it?
That's
really?
True, actually. I've never thought about it that way, but I don't remember anybody putting that to me either, to be honest.
I think if they did, I would have probably done it earlier. It's like, oh, you can do this thing. And no one did when you were younger. So you just go to work and you just work and work and work. And it's not that I didn't enjoy it. Like, I enjoyed the work. Enjoyed meeting people and visiting the factories and working with these buyers. But I always felt that mould of going to work at 9, leaving at 6, having your lunch at this time. And I just didn't feel that I fitted in.
At your desk as well?
Yeah, you can't leave, can you? And when you work for a bigger company, you can't even go and have a conversation with someone. It's like, oh, you can't do that. You must work. It's quite forced in a way, looking back now. I think during lockdown, I worked for suppliers for quite a long time, different ones from high street to high end, and all different countries, Europe and Far East. And then I started working for smaller brands. And my most recent position, as you know, I work at the Bike Shed Motorcycle Club, and I'm still work there as head of production 2 days a week. And that was a different environment. And that made me realize that there's more to the 9 to 5. And then it was during lockdown, I said to my husband, actually, I have to credit him. It was his idea. He said, I said, look, I feel like I need to do something for myself. I just don't know what it is, because I'm not super creative. I am creative, but I'm not fully creative. And I don't feel like I'm fully business minded. I'm a bit of both. So he's like, why don't you use all of your knowledge that you've learned over the years and help other people? And I was like, oh, is that a thing? People do it. I never really considered that there was another option to make a living. And so I kind of just thought, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So this is my opportunity to give it a chance, because as you know, if you're working full time, it's hard to, you've got to do your side hustle. You're constantly working. So I have to give it a go, because lockdown's going to give me those extra hours where I'm not commuting, where I can sort of work something around my full-time job. So that's how it started. And I did work my arse off at the beginning. It's like, I still do. You know, when you're just working, you feel like you're working all hours when you're, I guess it's almost in launch mode, like as brands do when they're launching, they're preparing everything, getting everything ready. And then the longer sort of consistent slog happens after launch, doesn't it? You just got to keep going. But it's those hours of getting everything ready and preparing. And I just was like, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to go for this and see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? That was my sort of motto. If it fails, I'll just go back to 9 to 5. So if you think of it in that way, then what's the worst can happen? And also, if it fails, fine, it wasn't the right thing for you. You can try something else. And that's kind of the beauty of it. So I did it. I was lucky I got a couple of clients quite early on, and that helped me sort of figure out what I wanted to do with the business.
How did you find those clients?
Through word of mouth at the beginning, because nobody online knew who I was. My website and my Instagram didn't start kicking in until later on. So it was a lot.
That in itself kind of interesting, because I think so many people block themselves from moving forward thinking, oh, but I've got to have a website. Oh, but I've got to have my social media all set up, ready.
You think it's one of those things that you need. Oh, I must have a website. And I'd hired a business coach at the beginning as well to help me with like the confidence of putting myself online, because I was really nervous. I wasn't sure, like, oh God, why do I have to put myself online to run a business? But it is really important. People need to see your face. So somebody dealt with that, and she said, oh, you've got this list of things, but they're things that you need to action off. They're not business plans. It's just you need to website. That's just like a tick box exercise. It wasn't needed at the beginning, but it is needed now. And it is important now. But at the start, I thought it was like, oh, I must have it to launch, but I didn't need it to launch. I just launched anyway. So I started in the November. I didn't launch my website till the February. But I just told everybody I knew from the industry that I was doing this. Then one of the people that I used to work with, one of the guys I used to work for, he messaged me and said, oh, one of our clients needs your help. It's a small brand. So that's how it started. So I went to meet them in person. And so, yes, that word of mouth, just telling everyone, that sort of helped me get off the ground, and just networking, talking to people that have already done it or are doing it, talking to people that want to launch brands, see how they're getting on. And naturally, I'm quite a chatty person. So I'm on for having a chat, and I'm naturally inquisitive. I'm interested to see what people are up to. I want to know how their brand's doing. Like even now, like I follow brands on Instagram, and I'll be like, oh, how did that pop-up go that you did? What was your sales like? And we haven't worked together. I just follow them, and I'm just genuinely interested in how they're finding it and how they're doing, because I want to know that information. Is it easy? Did they sell out? Was it bad? What was bad about it? All good learnings. I think naturally inquisitive people are quite talkative anyway.
I'm not super talkative, but I am really curious. If you get me interested in something, I will just keep firing questions at you, because I just want to know. Again, we were talking before about, you can be this kind of person or that kind of person, but rather than trying to fit into a box, you can actually be a bit of both. And the kind of curiosity element, I love that, because it just means you keep learning.
I don't know about you, but I find the older I get, the more I want to learn as well. When I was younger, I didn't really want to learn as much. I wanted to be out.
It's forced. I mean, when you're younger, it's kind of forced learning, isn't it? So it's such a difference. But I'm just interested when you mentioned the bike shed. Oh my God, it's like the holy grail of of biking in London. I cannot wait to visit at some point. But I was just interested when you talked about how that also had a bit of an impact on how you felt around kind of 9 to 5 work or working alongside them. Do you think it was like the people and the environment and working in a slightly different industry, sort of bridging that gap between biking and fashion?
It was working sort of a little bit out of industry, still retail, and obviously still doing all the retail bike shed collection, but it is out of industry, like you say, and it's the culture as well. And it's not, as you know, it's not a traditional office setup.
Yeah.
It's a venue that has a retail space, a bar, a restaurant, event space, a barber's. So it does feel very different to a normal 9 to 5. And the whole reason why I ended up working there was through BC, which is, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a community of female bikers. And they started having Wednesday meetups once a month at the bike shed for women to come together in a male-dominated industry and just have a space to chat about bikes. And if you like bikes or you were just about to learn or you have had a bike for a while, it's just about creating this community. So before I even got my full license, I'd gone to the meetups and then I passed my test and it was just such a nice feeling to go into that monthly meetup. Oh, I passed.
I love the female biking community.
It's so good. It's brilliant. And Vicky, who is one of the CEOs, owners of Bike Shed, she was there at BC meetups and we were chatting and she said, oh, we need someone on our team. Do you want to come and work here? And so I had a chat with Gareth, who's now the brand director, and Dutch, the other CEO, and they were like, you should come and work here.
God, it sounds like a dream job.
I'd just started another job in the industry as well. I'd only been there 6 weeks. And so I had another job. And then I'd had a chat with my husband and he's like, just go for it and see what happens. Take the risk because you know that you don't want to work in this industry. You wanted to do something different. And this is a different avenue for you. So I gave it a go and never looked back.
Oh my God, it just sounds so exciting. I just get excited thinking about it. Like being able to kind of merge those interests in such a way that feels really good. You get the best of both.
And I'm lucky enough that I am still there and they're fully supportive of my business and have said, you can do that and do this. I feel really lucky. And I genuinely feel that working there feeds into the business and vice versa.
Of course.
Any learnings that I take from there and obviously being in it, working for a brand, call it a startup, but we've been going a while now, that I'm in it every day. When I'm there, I'm doing the stuff that other brand owners that I help are doing. So it helps to keep me current with what's going on in the world. So with all the manufacturing that's going on, all the different things and all the troubles that they face, I'm facing. So I can sort of paint a very real picture and help them in that way. Like it's a lot different from just coaching. I'm like also know what they're going through.
Yeah. And I guess that's really reassuring for them as well. It's not just taking your knowledge from a time when, you knew the stuff. It's like actually, you're right in there with me. You know what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's quite important because it does change a lot. It changes all the time and it's moving faster than ever, manufacturing. It's a different thing to what it was even 10 years ago.
How do you keep up with all of that stuff?
I don't know. Sometimes when you're constantly doing it, you're working on one season, working on the season ahead, you just naturally find a rhythm to it. And you have to be quite good at planning as well. You need to you need to plan ahead. But you do find a rhythm. You're like, okay, to get this delivery date, I need to book this by then. So the development needs to happen, 6 months before. So you just map out your calendar a little bit. But once you've been doing it, I've been there since 2018. So once you've been there a while, you naturally then get into that rhythm of that calendar and what you need to do when. And I think that only comes with experience. It's like years of experience.
Yeah. When you're first entering into the industry, you have to get your head around the critical path, and you have to understand that, you're planning this collection, but it's not launching until maybe 6 months or a year's time. I know with footwear, you're planning at least 12 months ahead. I think with clothing, the lead times are slightly shorter, but you've still got to get your head around the idea of you're thinking in one season, but you're acting in the other.
Exactly. And it just comes, if you've done it a while, it just comes naturally, and you can just do it. So yeah, there's a lot of plate spinning.
Yeah.
But after a while, you just know what to do, and it just becomes quite natural instinct to what to do in what order. But at the beginning, it's really difficult, and you can't. Sometimes people can't get their head around that you need to be working on something now, and also the future collection as well, and potentially developing the one after that, just with ideas and mood boards and stuff. So that you're constantly working on the future as well as current. So yeah.
You said earlier that you felt like a bit of a misfit, both in terms of not necessarily wanting to do a 9 to 5, but also that you didn't feel as though you fell into kind of one camp or the other, the business or the creative.
Yeah.
And I know, like, from my own experience as a designer, I worked for a few different companies, like high street companies. I worked for a luxury shoe company for a while, and it wasn't really until I then worked for a supplier that I kind of felt like things could be different, which is why it's really interesting to hear you talk about bike shed. It's almost like, actually, if you meet the right people and you're in the right environment, it does change things a little bit. How do you feel about that kind of, the stereotype of the fashion industry versus the reality?
There are people that live up to that stereotype, but there's a lot of people that I've met along the way that don't. But they're more my peers that I've been working with in the office. I think I've been quite lucky. There's been a couple of companies that I've worked for. I'm still friends with those girls now. I was just out for dinner on Wednesday with two of my friends I used to work with nearly 10 years ago. And we've kept in touch. There's just certain people along the way that there were certain situations and certain groups where we all just clicked and gelled, and it was nice. But equally, there were some companies that were toxic. Their culture and their work ethic was just, not great.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
It always comes from the top down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I feel it was just money. And no departments were allowed to almost talk to each other. So I was in sales at the time. So sales and design and production, they were all in separate rooms. You were just all sales together, and it's like almost competing with the people that you were in the room with for the best of the week. And that was what it was really driven to be competitive. And it was almost frowned upon if you left on time, like at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I experienced some of that as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I just think, how ridiculous is that it's frowned upon that you leave on time. Now, looking back at it, you have to be stressing, oh my God, I've got so much work to do. I have to say, like, that's not good. To drive it into you that that's how the culture should be. And it doesn't mean you're not working hard if you leave on time.
Yeah. I mean, I went through a similar experience, and the whole competitiveness really did put me off quite a lot. And one of the reasons that I love talking to you about these things, not only because you've been there and lived through some of these experiences, but you've come out the other side and managed to make things work the way you want them to work. So running your own business, which obviously is not going to be easy.
No.
You're still a little bit more in control and able to collaborate. I think when you run your own business, there's so much more emphasis on the collaborations that you can have rather than just feeling as though you're competing with everybody.
I agree. I think once you step outside of that industry, that sort of competitiveness, and you're working with small brands or other people that have come out of the industry that are like you, it's so nice. It's like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
Oh, this is how people want to work with me. This is lovely. And you kind of just have that sort of light bulb moment. Oh, life is definitely different on this side.
Yeah.
And I had some I've met some great friends along the way, but equally those toxic cultures, they definitely exist. Definitely. We used to have a guy that used to stand at the door at 9 o'clock and wait for people to come in and go off and tell the CEO.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, who's there sitting having their business meetings in the bike shed now?
So at the time,
he's still standing by the door, don't worry. He's still standing by the door. And you're enjoying yourself in the bike shed and riding around on your Harley.
Yeah, it's just not everywhere was like that, but a lot of places were, especially back in sort of 2010, something around there. That's when it started to get really fast and you were booking orders every week. Come on. It wasn't even like the fast fashion typically that you think of today, which is in some ways we've come really far and we haven't. You've got people like, Shein, Pretty Little Thing and Misguided. They didn't exist then. I'm talking like main high street, like Topshop, Warehouse, Oasis. Even then we were booking orders every week, and they probably wouldn't even be considered that fast fashion when you think of today's brands. We've got faster and faster, even from when I was doing it. I'm so glad that I got out of that and started working with smaller brands and independent brands. Even the last couple of suppliers that I worked for, they were businesses that were small or independent. So like Millie McIntosh, we worked with her brand for a bit. And AQAQ, who Julie, who's the CEO and founder of AQAQ, she spoke at an event I did last year. And when I started working with people, I realised, this is so nice. Like, I really like working with these people. It's just nice that they're not going to cancel your orders if you're a week late. They're going to work with you.
Tell me about this event. That sounds quite exciting.
Yeah. So last year, myself and Sophie Biggerstaff, who I met online actually through our businesses, we met through a networking community, an online community called The Coven. And we met during lockdown and we got chatting. As you know, running a business on your own, especially in lockdown, it can be quite lonely because you're not getting out and seeing people. So it's quite important to make sure you were talking to people even online and having these chats. So we were chatting quite regularly, and then lockdown was lifted and we were able to meet in person. We had lunch. So we both live in London. And we both do a really similar thing. We're both business consultants. She's more sales and marketing focused, and I'm more production and product development. So kind of complement each other, but we do cross over into each other's areas as well. But rather than treat it as somebody who's a competitor, like we said, how things used to be when you used to work in these industries, we were like, we're far better off working together. I don't want to be competitive with other people. We don't need to. There's enough people to sustain a decent business. I don't need to turn over millions equally. I just want to have a sustainable business. So we said, I want to put on an event. Let's put an event on, a real life event, because we've just come out of lockdown. The name of our sort of collaboration is called Let's Get Down to Business. And we hosted an evening event, and it was inspirational guest speakers. We interviewed them. So we had 2 people from inspirational brands who are doing really well. We had a guest panel of people from social media, a copywriter, press PR, and then we spoke, and we had a Q&A at the end, and we had drinks and canopies, and afterwards we had big networking sort of evening. So it was just...
It sounds really fun.
It was so good. It was really nice. And we had around 35 small business owners come. It's so good. Everyone that came had such a good time. But also afterwards, we see people that came to the event are now friends with each other, collaborating together.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel so good. Everyone come together and then go off and do things together as well. It was a really good event.
This episode is kindly sponsored by Plight Club, a brand whose mission is to change the attitude towards vulnerability by encouraging more conversation around it in order to increase real human connection. When you can express your feelings constructively, you can work through your fears, open your heart and find your place in the world. The vehicle for these conversations is clothing, or connection clothing as it's become known. Connection is one of my core values, so I'm thrilled to be able to partner with Plight Club so we can join in our collective goal of bringing people together and helping you rebel against staying the same. Sustainable, organic and rebellious, of course, Plight Club also uses 50% of their profits to fund proactive suicide prevention in the form of coaching, support and awareness raising, which enables people to understand their emotions and express how they feel constructively. Become a vulnerable with us. For more info on the brand or to buy online, go to plightclub.co.uk or follow on Instagram at plightclubhq. Now, back to the show.
That's not the only events that you organise, is it? Because I know that you do kind of these monthly meetups.
Yeah. So that kind of was born off of the back of the event that we did in person and almost what VC London do for the bike. So I was like, I kind of could combine something here. Because I work at Bike Shed, obviously I can have a space in the lounge for a few drinks here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what if I just did a monthly thing for small business, product-based business owners to come together and have a chat about their month, basically. And I wanted to make it a regular thing rather than a one-off, because I think then the pressure's off a bit. So you can dip in and out of it. So if you're a product-based business and you live in London, we meet on the third Wednesday of every month. It's just a couple of hours. And I think because it is just a couple of hours and it's really relaxed, it's in a lounge environment, it's not too much out of your day and you get quite a lot from it. It's free. You just buy a drink. So it's just about building community. We have a little WhatsApp group as well. So when you can then ask any questions, does anyone know how to do this?
Or I love that, because you found it. Now you've added a new layer, because now you've also be giving back into the community just by putting on an evening. And I think
it's just a couple of hours.
Yeah, but there's also a really valuable lesson there in terms of start with what you know. You didn't make it extra complicated by going, I want to put on this huge thing. It was like, I work here, it's a really nice environment. Why don't I make it really easy for myself and share the experience once a month? It's free, which makes it super accessible.
Yeah. And you can come 1 month and then not come for a couple of months and dip back into it again, because it runs yearly. The only month I'm not going to do it is December. But the rest of the year, you can just dip in and out of it. And we have people that come quite regular and other people that join. We have new people that come every month. So that every month there's somebody new. And I can maybe see people online and I'm like, then they might post something that they're in London and they're a small business. We come to our meetups.
Yeah.
It's just such a nice way of meeting people and just talking to them and having that little community. And I think giving back it just makes it all feel really good in terms of I feel like I'm giving back into that community.
Yeah.
And they come to me and just get a bit of advice and just network with other people. And because it's not corporate at all and it's not a paid event, it's super relaxed. I think that's what people enjoy about it.
Yeah.
They come and kick back. It doesn't have to be awkward. We're all sitting on these lovely big sofas just chilling out. So
and are you still involved with VC? Are you doing things with them?
Yeah, I saw the girls a couple of weeks ago. We actually went to visit the Herald factory, Herald Motorcycle, and we had a look at their factory and how they don't just make.
I still think you just have the best job.
The reason why that came about, known Gemma for a long time now, and there's also Annalisa and Charlotte and Claire. And over the summer, Gemma, last year, they started the Herald and VC beginners school. So women that hadn't rode a bike before could come. It's like a precursor to you doing your first test, your CBT. Come into all women environment and get on a bike, and we'll teach you the basics. We'll walk around the bike and teach you the basics, and then get you on the bike. And by the end of the session, you hopefully be going up round and round in second gear. At the beginning of this year, Gemma was like, do you want to become an instructor for the school? I was like, hell yeah, I'd love to. So through the summer, we run the school once a month in East London, and people could come and learn to ride a bike. The Herald would provide the bikes, and we'd run 2 classes in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. And just watching people like they'd come and they'd be really nervous. It kind of a bit like my business, that people come and they're really nervous and they don't know what to do, and by the end of it they're like, yeah, I've got this, like I could do this. So
I think your enthusiasm is kind of infectious though, so all credit.
oh, thank you. It's nice watching people, because I know, and I don't know if you had the same experience when you learn. I was so scared.
Yep.
I was terrified to be on a bike, and I just thought I'd never get over that. Like, I don't think this is for me. Actually, my husband pushing me to do it was probably the best thing, because I might have given up. But if I'd have had that environment and know that was there, I think I would have taken to it a lot quicker.
I think it can just take the edge off that kind of feeling of intimidation that you might have to. I know I certainly felt like, especially knowing that probably most of the instructors and most of the people biking around me were likely to be guys, and maybe some of them would have had a bit of experience. I remember feeling a bit intimidated, and I think I would have really enjoyed starting with something a bit more relaxed, the way VC are encouraging women to get going.
So nice. And I think what feeds into my business life and personal life, try and have that crossover. Like, I want people to feel relaxed when they work with me on a professional basis. And then I've obviously have the monthly meetups, which is super relaxed. And then I want to help people outside in motor industry to feel comfortable and confident as well. So yeah, I hadn't really thought about that before, but yeah, it kind of all flows, doesn't it? So
I think that really comes across. But I mean, has it been hard to kind of pull these different threads together, or does it feel like it come together on its own?
I think the best ideas, like you said, the best ideas are sometimes the simplest ideas. And I've always felt like having that community is really important anyway. And you can see what positive things have happened from the back of having VC, or coming to Camp VC and everyone coming together and having that positivity. And I feel having that idea of having the meetups and having that relaxed thing just came naturally. It was just like, oh yeah, simple idea. And then my husband saying, why don't you start a business with what you already know? Well, I hadn't thought about it.
Your husband's coming away from this podcast as a bit of a star. You do realise, don't you?
Credit where credit's due. I wouldn't have probably thought about. I probably would have come to it eventually, maybe later. He does give me a kick up the arse sometimes that I need to get going. I think, to answer your original question, yeah, it came naturally to seamlessly sort of put those together, the biking world and my business, because I feel like that's part of my life that I want to share anyway. There's parts of you, like, you don't need to put your whole life online. There are some elements of it that you want to share.
Yeah.
I think that motorcycle community, I do want to share it because I want more people to be involved in it.
Yeah, I get that, because I love the motorcycling community. They're so supportive and encouraging.
Yeah, so I think that sort of did come naturally to say, right, I do definitely want to have that as part of the thing that I'll share via my business, because I think that it does gel. And there are other things that I won't share, because that's like private life, but that's definitely one of them that I did want to.
I see you as a bit of a fashion rebel in a way, because you've kind of gone, I'm going to still work with the fashion industry, but I'm going to do it on my terms.
Yeah.
Would you say you're a bit of a rebel?
I think so. Yeah, probably. I'm a bit more of a fuck yeah kind of person than oh no, let's be sensible. I'll be that person that's egging you on to do something. Definitely. Come
Amazing.
on, let's go and do this. Are we going to get in trouble? Probably, but we're going to do it anyway.
Well, on that note, that leads me to ask you about what's your finest act of rebellion then, or...
Oh my goodness.
Or how do you add mischief into your life on, sort of on a more daily basis? Perhaps your act of rebellion you can't share. Perhaps it's out there.
I don't know. I think I just generally can be cheeky at times. I guess my act of rebellion is to be speaking, like a lot of people, like you said, they try and fit in all the time. Whereas I feel that I always speak my truth. Sometimes that can be considered slightly blunt. So but I'm a quite direct person. There's no bullshit. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bullshit you with anything. That's my truth. That's what I think. Doesn't mean I'm not a nice person, as you know. Like I want to help people, but I don't want to lie to them either.
No, people need to hear the truth.
Yeah, people want to hear the truth. I think that is an act of rebellion sometimes, because you see some people online in business and they're promising you the earth, aren't they? Oh, you can make 10k months if you follow this plan. And I'm like, well, yeah, but there's no context to that. You could be spending 10k to make 10k. There's so many foundations to be put in before you can even consider that.
But what kind of advice would you give to somebody who was, thinking of starting their own business, but is just maybe a little bit scared? Because, I mean, were you scared? You were a little bit scared when you started, I imagine.
Yeah, and I think you should. I think the bigger thing is to feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes.
It's not as difficult as you think it's going to be once you start. Yeah, it's hard. Like, you've got to work, but it's stuff that you can learn. It's not some secret thing that you've got to study. It's not like studying to be a doctor. You can learn it along the way. It's just having someone to help you, or finding the right people to sort of give you a bit of guidance. It's just get over the fear. And actually having a bit of fear is a good thing. That's what sort of, that good fear. Obviously you don't want to feel completely utterly anxious.
Well, I mean, fear and excitement are kind of there in the same field, aren't they?
Yeah, you want that sort of excitement to try something new, because when you do, and this does relate back to biking a bit, when you do something you feel quite terrified of, and you accomplish it and you do it, i.e. you ride a bike and you pass your test, that feeling afterwards of doing it, oh my God, I did that, I'm so proud of myself. And so it's the same in business, isn't it? You set these milestones to do things, and then you do them and you feel so good. Like, I'm always pushing myself to do stuff out of my comfort zone, and I don't like it, but I do it. And then once I've done it, like even my first podcast, when I did one, I didn't want to do it. I was really nervous. I did it, and now I love doing them. But the first one, I was like, oh God. And then even speaking when I did the event, standing at the front of the room and talking to people, or speaking on camera for the first time on Instagram, or I was a guest speaker on an online event. All of these things were firsts that I needed to push through. I'm actually speaking at an event in person the end of January at King's College in London for E-Nation. It's a startup entrepreneur event. So that's another thing that I'm going to have to push through, because I know on the day I'll be terrified.
Yeah, but I mean,
you got to do it. You got to do it.
You don't strike me as the kind of person who shies away from it. Like you said, you kind of feel the fear.
I'll face it. Yeah.
And you do it anyway.
Yeah, I'm still terrified to do it. Like, don't get me wrong, when people think that she's really confident. No, I'm really frightened of doing these things, but I don't let that overwhelm me. I'm just like, no, you've got to push through. And because I think, when you've done something once and you push through that barrier and you know what the outcomes can be, then you want to keep doing more. But it's that first initial one, isn't it?
How do you do that? Are you literally there just like talking yourself into it?
Yeah. Literally, yeah. Like, what's the worst can happen? Nothing bad's going to happen. Just go for it.
I think that would be my takeaway from speaking with you, is really that whole sense of what's the worst that could happen, and just go for it.
Just go for it. Just take the leap of faith. I think that has served me so well in my life in every aspect. It's just take that leap, because you can't live when you're old, living in a nursing home, age 95, whatever. You can look back on your life and say, I took the opportunities that arose.
Yeah.
I think that's where I want to be when I'm old, and say I grabbed everything with both hands and said yes a lot rather than no. But yeah, it's not easy pushing through comfort zones. I know it isn't. Like, I dropped that bike so many times when I was learning. I wanted to go home and I didn't want to be on it, and it was cold and I was crying in my helmet, and I didn't want to be there. But yeah, you just keep doing it, and you keep practicing.
Yeah, I was the same.
Yeah.
And
do you feel like it's just human-mindedness that you kept going? Like, you just knew?
Well, I just kept I just kept focusing on, I wanted to be that person on the bike just enjoying themselves. And
that Instagram girl.
having seen so many people doing it, I was like,
I
no
know
matter how scared I am, there's nothing extra special about them. It's just that they've pushed through any fear that they had and they've come out the other side. And look how much fun they're having. I was like, I want to be a part of that. Look how much fun they're having. And when I distinctly remember on my Mod 2 test, driving along on a sunny day down some country lane, you know, on the throttle, I was like, this is amazing. I was actually genuinely, I mean, I was a bit nervous still, but I was really enjoying it. I was almost like, wind your neck in a little bit here. Don't enjoy yourself too much. You'll do something stupid and you'll fail. But genuinely, I was like, this is what it's all been about. You know, I hope to God that I pass at the end of this day. But if not, I'm really enjoying being out riding. I'm just so grateful that I've got to this point. I think, that's what it's all about.
Once you get to that point and you have that feeling, you kind of nailed it. And it is watching, like you look, I don't know about you, but you look at people who are women on bikes on Instagram, you're like, oh wow, I want to ride a bike. I want to look
exactly.
like her. Yeah, they look so cool. I want to look that cool. And you're visualizing the end result already. It's just getting to that. So I think when you keep that in your mind, you have that single-mindedness that I want to achieve this. I want to achieve this, and I think you will. You just got to keep going and keep that visualization of that you're going to be that girl with the wind in her hair riding your cool bike down a country lane, and then once you do it, I'm doing it, yes. But it's keeping that in mind when you're wet, cold and miserable. It's snowing, you're still practicing and you've dropped the bike for the 10th time and you're like, oh God, am I ever going to do this? That's the moment.
There's so many there's so many takeaways, metaphors from sort of learning to ride that kind of transfer into starting your own business as well.
I think so. I do. I think
it's so relevant.
Yeah. I think also when I started the business, a lot of people that are doing it were younger than me. And I was like, oh God, am I too old to do this? Then I was like, well, I learned to ride a bike at age 39. So, I've been riding 6 years now. So I was like, well, if you can do that at that age, you can do anything. So stop being a negative Nancy and get on with it. And actually, coming from it a bit older, it means we've just got more experience. So
exactly. Yeah. More experience and maybe also more focus as well.
I might not be able to make great TikToks and stuff like that, but I'm still learning everything as I go along. I'm not great with technology a lot of the time, but I will give it my best. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? Is to give it a go, like we said.
What's the big vision for the future, apart from I just have this vision of you riding off into the sunset on your body, but apart from that?
I think we all have that vision, don't we, if we're bikers? So this year, I was like, I want to approach the business sustainably. I don't want to be, like you were saying at the beginning, there's so many ideas that you have. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Sometimes you end up not doing any of them or not doing them well, or you need to pick one and stick with it. So this year, my goal was to create something to give back to the community. So I did the monthly meetups. So that was my goal, to do an in-person thing monthly and make it work, and it has. So I've hit that. I had some goals that I wrote down at the beginning of the year. Most of them I've hit, but I just didn't want them. They weren't big things. Like, it was more like to be healthy and happy, to make sure that I drink enough water and go to the gym. I had some sales targets, as in like I wanted to get so many clients. I didn't get as many as I wanted, but I still did pretty damn well. So I was happy with that. So I wanted to do something. I don't want to grow my business quickly, experience burnout. So if it takes me 2 or 3 years to reach a goal rather than a year, that's fine. As long as I'm still working and I'm earning income, that's okay. And then next year, I wanted to have the goal of doing some kind of course or something. So I'm still working on that. I feel like my business is all completely evolving, because I don't think it's ever going to be set like, oh, this is the way I'll do one-to-one and this is the strategy sessions. That's just for now. That will hopefully evolve into something else as I go along. I know I want to do certain things But I don't have, right, this is a goal I want to smash for 2023. I want to keep doing more of the same, more events, more monthly meetups, more clients, just keep going and see where it takes me. I don't want to make too many plans for the next 2 years. I just want to focus on what I have got and see what's working and then do more of that. And I think sometimes people get caught up in like what's down the road, and
I was
want to
going to
know
say the same thing. In fact,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a really nice point to end on, because you're practically saying, I'm just enjoying being in the moment, really. Yes, I'm thinking about the future, but not to the point where there's this huge, huge goal. It's like,
I think sometimes with
just
me,
enjoy where we're at.
yeah, enjoy that, because there's so much pressure on life in general, isn't there, to do things and perform and do all these. And yeah, we do need some goals to push yourself forward in business, but sometimes it creates so much pressure.
Yeah.
You end up not enjoying what you're doing right now because you're always thinking, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. And actually, I need to listen to what people are talking to me about in my business now to develop something for the future, for future clients.
Yeah.
I need to be present and focus on the people I have now. But I haven't worked with some, I'm really lucky. I've worked with some really lovely clients. One client is launching next week. I'm really excited for it. And the other clients are launching hopefully early next year. So I'm really lucky that I've got to work with these people along the way. Yeah, they do. And they find me, like I said earlier, now Instagram and Google search is working and they're finding me online.
Mm-hmm.
I still get word of mouth. And actually through monthly meetups as well, some people are like, oh, can we work together? That wasn't the point of it. It was just to make a community. But a couple of times it's happened. And also people in that group are now working together as well. One of the girls in our group, Leanne from Mystic Wardrobe, she's having a pop-up next Saturday. She doesn't live far from me. And there's 2 or 3 of the brands that come to monthly meetups are going to be at her pop-up. So that just makes me so happy. I'm like, yes, they're working together. So more of that, and just being present for what I have got now and seeing what works, and then assessing the end of the year and thinking, right, what worked? What really worked? What did you enjoy? And then do more of that.
Yeah.
And then, go from there. And like I said, there'll be new experiences. Like I've got this, I'm guest being at this event. I don't know how it's going to pan out or what that will lead to, but it might lead to something else. So you need to leave some of yourself open to new possibilities you just can't plan or strategize or make goals for.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a gem. I love that. Claire, I could just happily sit here and talk to you all day.
Me too. I could chat to you all day.
But I know I need to let you get back to your daily life. So where can people find you, either on social media, or where can they find out more about you?
So you can find me on Instagram. It's at Claire_Alex_consults. And my website is www.clare-alexander.co.uk. And I am hosting a free 3-day mini workshop with Sophie from Buyer Collective for people that want to start a brand in 23. And maybe they've got an idea and they don't know where to start. So we're doing some like mini trainings, completely free. And people can sign up via the link in my bio on Instagram and come and join us for that workshop.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so nice to see you.
I hope you loved today's episode and it made you think differently, or perhaps nudged you into changing something in your life that's not working for you. I'd love to give you a shout out right here on the podcast too. So let me know what you think, what you'd like to hear more of, or how you've been inspired by what you've heard. Let's keep in touch over on Instagram at Mischief and Hide, or sign up to my newsletter at zoegreenhalf.com. If you're enjoying being part of the Mischief movement, please consider telling a friend or leaving me a review wherever you download your episodes, which will seriously help my mission to inspire and empower more people like us to choose mischief over mediocre. Ciao!
Amazing.